Kyle, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, make sure to turn on your video if you have to vote.
Yes, I remember. I'll do that. I'm almost to a place where I'll be parking, so I'll,
All
I'll
right, thank
jump
you.
on here soon.
We're going to start in about 1 minute. Oops. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Henry County Council to order. Since it is a special meeting, we'll start. If you'd please stand for a pledge and a prayer, please. Council, I think you should have had several days ago information from Corey. He supplemented that with a repeat of one of the handouts that he gave us earlier this week. Are there any questions on those? Any updates? I know Shannon gave an update to us via email. Did everyone get that and read it, or today? Everybody get Shannon's update? You might summarize it if you would, Shannon.
Sure. In the interest of trying to figure out if the proposal that Corey provided would, be able to complete everything that basically solve all of the water pressure problems that I was aware of anyway. I reached out to Dan Wright, of FPBH, and he said that he had done a number of different analysis. One of them was for the 4-H Center in April of this year, and it showed looping the water to the south, which helped improve pressure and service to the Westwood subdivision. Wildwood, is it Wildwood? Sorry. The one done for Memorial Park shows looping the water to the north, and looping the water to the south does not help the shelter houses or the Smith Building or other things in the park. Looping to the north does help those facilities. So looping to the north will help the 4-H Center building to also have adequate water pressure, but it would not help Wildwood. So I asked if looping to the north would provide adequate water pressure to other facilities within the park, meaning the YOC, the Saddle Club, and even the golf course. He responded that yes, it would. Now, I'm not suggesting that is a final engineering analysis, because I believe Corey's proposal involves securing an engineering firm to do a complete engineering of the project and submit that out for bids. But I wanted to point out that my concern was that both loops had to be done to be able to meet the needs of the park, in which case allocating the money that Corey had requested would not get that project, it would not accomplish that goal. However, after talking with Dan, I feel confident that what Corey has asked for will meet the needs of the park, all facilities in that area, but would not help the Wildwood subdivision, which is not really of our concern at this point. We're talking about infrastructure for Memorial Park, so that's the latest information that I have.
Any questions up here or online? Do we have both? I see Kyle. Is Betsy also online?
I saw her a minute ago.
Okay, so she.
Yeah,
may be-
I'm here. Sorry, I was dabbing my eye.
No
Went
problem.
offline or off camera.
I just wanted to make sure, were there any questions? He did send that report out via email. He just went
Yeah.
over it. We okay? Thumbs up? Okay, good. Mike? Okay. Anything else we want before we turn it over to Corey? Shannon, you got your finger on the button.
I would just suggest that we look at the two proposals that Corey provided separately and ask to tackle them in the order that he presented them.
You've got them listed as Project A and Project B. Project A is the one where you had an RDC meeting, as I recall, a few months ago. And I'm going to turn it over to you to summarize it, but it has to do with housing in Newcastle with two possibilities, Wilbur Wright and behind Wilbur Wright Elementary area and behind Taco Bell. I'm going to turn it over to you and then Q&A.
Good afternoon, council. Thanks for the opportunity to appear before you on behalf of potentially leveraging $4 million of grant money to our county. I say potentially because the Regional Steering Committee on behalf of East Central Indiana created a project list for all 8 counties. And that list has been submitted to the Indiana Economic Development Corporation for review and approval. That process is underway but not complete. IEDC approval is expected but not guaranteed. The first project before you is a residential development. It's one project on 2 sites within the city of Newcastle. It's 113 single-family homes over a approximately 4-year period. One site is located on Washington Street between Wilbur Wright Elementary and the Salvation Army. The other site is located west of Taco Bell or Myers Appliance, and it has a northern boundary of Nixon Drive. My request for matching dollars for the housing project is $1 million from your food and beverage fund. Those funds would be used for public infrastructure. We're not writing the developer a check. The food and beverage funds, if approved, would go through the same process that our normal grant cycle goes through. A claim is submitted to the county, reviewed by the county commissioners, and either approved or not. But the part of the project where that $1 million, if you approve it, would go to would be public infrastructure. And it would help towards the match on the project. What is public infrastructure? The roads, the water, the sewer, the drainage, all of the work that has to be done prior to the home construction. Right now, the estimated schedule for that is to begin construction on the infrastructure aspect in the summer or fall of next year. We have some other funding applications that we're pursuing for that project. That application is due in the middle of December. That is through the Indiana Finance Authority's Residential Infrastructure Fund program. The Indiana Finance Authority Residential Infrastructure Fund program, or a RIF, not a reduction in force, but a residential infrastructure fund, It's a fairly new program that the state introduced. Our plan is to apply for funding through that. The city would then, subject to an approval process, which has not happened, but the city would then issue TIF revenue bonds. And the financial institution that would buy those bonds would be the Indiana Finance Authority, if they approve the application that's due in December. I'm way into the weeds on the project, but I say that because infrastructure is expected to begin in summer or fall or 2025. We have a few things to work through, but that's our goal. And the support from food and beverage is absolutely critical. We cannot do the project as described without the support of food and beverage. The County Redevelopment Commission does not have the horsepower. The City Redevelopment Commission does not have the horsepower. I don't know where else to look. And so I'll pause and ask for questions on that project. And if you all are so inclined, I would maybe appreciate a vote on that project, and then we can spend the rest of the time talking about the other project.
What's the total investment of that total project?
About 39 million. That includes the construction of the houses.
Right.
The public infrastructure aspect is about let's just call it 7.5 million. And I'm doing that from memory.
Thank you.
Of the two projects, currently, is there a priority to break ground on one over the other? I know there was a recommendation from a consultant or engineering firm, I think HWC or whatever. But I also know that there's some discussion of maybe agreement or disagreement in it. Is that nothing set in stone? Is that yet to be determined, or is it determined?
So right now, we're going to continue on both sites. I thought that with the reduced ready amount, because the application was for 4.5 million and the potential award is at 3.5, I thought that we were going to have to pick a favorite site. And the mayor and I have had conversations with the developer, and we're comfortable right now moving forward with both sites. We've been able to make some adjustments to the budget.
So is that 79.5 million? That's for both sides, correct?
Did you say 79 million? I said 39 million. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that includes the construction of the homes. The bulk of that number is the construction of the homes. The infrastructure part of that is about 7.5 million.
Trying to think back to a meeting that we had in the paperwork that we were given several months back. We had the meeting over in a law firm. These were quasi starter homes, but they were about 275,000 to 325. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good range. I was before the City Redevelopment Commission yesterday morning, and we talked about this project. And after visiting a subdivision in North Vernon, Indiana, with the same developer, and North Vernon is the county seat of Jennings County, not on an interstate, a little smaller community, but a similar situation in terms of they haven't had a residential subdivision construction in a long, long, long time. And I was really impressed with the quality of the home and then the price point. And the price point was below 300. And so to the extent that I have influence on the price point, we want to be as far below 300 as possible and still have a quality product in phase one of both of these sites. There are future phases. And so maybe in the future phases, that price point can grow. but we want this to be successful for obvious reasons. And I think maintaining quality, but holding the line on the retail price as much as possible is going to be very, very important. And if they're doing it in North Vernon, in a smaller market, I think it would be possible to do that here. And the mayor has organized a couple field trips, and we're going to do another field trip. And so when that happens, I will extend an invitation to really whoever that wants to go. It's a great ride on the city bus down to North Vernon. That was a joke.
Not the same as a school bus. I just want to make a comment. I think Tom Saunders alluded to it at the open house dedication, rededication of the large shelter at Memorial Park, how fortunate we are to have food and beverage. We're able to leverage things that other counties dream about, and we just don't have the tax base to do some of the things that the growing counties, especially the donut counties. Of the 8 counties that are in this region, that's what, 35 million, 36 million that we got ready for East Central. Only 2 of the 8 counties have food and beverage, Delaware and us, correct?
Yes.
We're able to leverage that. And when I spoke at Ball State, they seemed to perk up that we had money in hand to leverage, since match is such an important part of this Ready 2.0. Questions on the road or at home? That would be Kyle and Betsy. A thumbs up, questions? Thumbs up, thumbs up. North side? South side? I gave my comments. I think the need for housing has been discussed for years, so.
I would move to grant the $1 million match request for Project A.
I second.
Been moved by Corey, seconded by Susan to match the.
By Shannon, not Corey.
That's why you gave that look. Yeah. The juvenile Alzheimer's kicked in again earlier than usual at a meeting. Motion by Shannon, second by Susan. Any discussion?
I think it sounds great. Much needed.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of granting 1 million from our food and beverage, say aye.
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 Oppose, nay. Passes 6-0. Project A, let's go.
Thank you. So let's move on to Project B. So I provided you some information on the scoring process, which involved elected officials from across the region. And so a similar process occurred in each county with a specific target to having elected officials involved. And so the elected officials joined the steering committee members. And the steering committee, by way of reminder, here in Henry County is myself and then Jennifer Fox from the Community Foundation. And then Mr. Gray, Ms. Plummer, and Mayor York joined Jennifer and I to select 5 projects to move on to round 2 of scoring. Round 2 of scoring was the 5 projects from each county. So 5 times 8 is 40. We had 40 projects. And then everybody, those same approximately 5 people in each county, scored 40 projects. And so the steering committee showed up and we had the information from the scoring to start our conversation. Not determine the project list, but to start the conversation. And the regional steering committee spent about a day's worth of work spread over 2 days determining the project list. And it was a give and take and it was a negotiation. And originally, our county was on the board for only 1 project. at 4.5 million. And through the process, I asked my fellow steering committee members, I said, I want to fund a second project in Henry County. I don't want to just walk away with one project. So I'm going to ask that you reduce the housing from 4.5 to 3.5. So there's $1 million on the table. Everybody with me? And I said, I want to donate 500,000 to the region, and I want to pull another project up. And I was not limited by score at that point. But I picked the second highest project in Henry County. Not right after housing. There's some other projects in between, other regional projects. But so the housing project was a top scoring project in Henry County. In selecting the second project on the board, I went to the second highest project for our county. I didn't have to do that. I'm telling you this because I did it, because if I didn't do it, one of you would ask me, well, how did it score? And I'm not going to lie to you. So that's how I picked this project. I say all that, and I'm going to refer to the last section of my memo under miscellaneous observations. And this is really, really important to me, incredibly important to me. And I don't have a vote. And I respect your authority. I respect your leadership. Oh, you're fine. And the commissioners. We have a real competitive advantage in this county. This is a great opportunity to leverage $4 million into our community. But on this second project, at $500,000, right at $500,000, I don't want controversy or delays. The region's watching and the state's watching. Are they watching tonight? Probably not. But here's what I want to avoid, if all possible. I want to avoid going back to the region 3 months from now or 4 months from now and going, Trevor, we can't spend the $500,000 on the Memorial Park infrastructure project because we can't get our sheesh together. I need another project. I don't want to do that. I work for you indirectly. So I respect your thoughts. I respect your authority. I respect your votes. But I spent time writing this miscellaneous observation because I believe our reputation is on the line. I don't care what you fund. I want to do it efficiently and I want to do it fast. And the project before you that I'm recommending, if you all don't want to do it, let's just decide that quickly and not wait until February or March or April of next year after the state approves it and go, well, sorry, we changed our mind. We need to switch horses in the middle of the race. And that's not a ploy for you to vote for this either. I want to use the $500,000 on a viable project that helps Henry County. This particular project happened to be the second highest scoring in the list. Now, it was a well-written application. I reviewed all 40 of them, as some of the people in the room did with me. It asked for $500,000 for water and sewer at Memorial Park. It was the application submitted from the 4-H Center. But they were very specific on the request. Water and sewer at Memorial Park. Memorial Park also submitted an application for infrastructure. It did not move forward. So based on that application and the application that is being recommended for funding is how I came up with a project budget of 2.1 million. The application requested 500,000 in ready. It's being recommended to the state for 500,000 of ready. But to do the project, there's a gap. There's a gap of 1.6. And that's why I'm asking for 1.6 million to complete the project. Now, what is the project? The project is to get water and sewer in Memorial Park. The exact scope or where the lines go would be determined in consultation between the county commissioners, a representative from the Memorial Park Board, and city utilities, guided by a qualified independent engineer that knows about water and sewer. And that same engineer, once the specs are determined, could design it, create construction documents, and I want to be ready to go to bid. If you all want to do this project, I want to be ready for bid by the end of April. Now, I sort of pulled that end of April out of the air, but it's a swag instead of just a wag. I won't say what that acronym is in public. You can look it up. The reason why is because the money's not going to be available until about the first or second quarter of next year. But I want this project to be waiting on them as opposed to them waiting on us. There's a phrase that says time kills deals. And if I appear a little pushy, that's why. But ultimately, if you don't want to do this project, I've offered you some alternatives. We can donate the 500,000 back to the region and another county can use it. That's my least favorite, but we could do that. We could request a swap. And you've already heard my speech. I want to do that sooner rather than later. Or we could request the 500,000 to go towards the aforementioned residential project. Let me repeat something and then I'll pause for questions. This is a water and sewer project for all of Memorial Park. Both sides of the county road. The exact line or route of the water lines will be determined by the county commissioners upon a recommendation from an engineering consultant and the park. I'll help coordinate it. I would be helping to coordinate anyway because I want to keep our ready projects on task. Even the housing project, we're going to move as quickly as possible because I want to demonstrate that Henry County is a good investment. Maybe the legislature will do a round 3. I want to be ready, unintended. I'll pause for questions.
Have a follow-up for what you just said. So you don't feel like anything in the application or your communication back to the state locks in anything specific at the park? You're saying the specifics of it will all be decided next year. It's general enough so far that the specifics can all be decided next year with the process that you just outlined.
Yeah, the application requested money for infrastructure. The exact line of that infrastructure is, we have a lot of latitude.
My only comment was I did look up the food and beverage. 2 years ago, Baker Tilly estimated we would bring in about $612,000 a year. Post-COVID, we've been bringing in about $850,000 a year. We currently have a 2.1 million balance of 450,000 unappropriated. Currently by April 25, you mentioned April 30th of 2025, we should have conservatively $3 million. That's just FYI to let you know the money's there or will be there, mostly there now. Part of what you said about the three, one of the Ready 1.0 projects, which was given the greatest amount, failed to gain traction. And that had to go back and reconsider a different project. You're wanting not to go through that again is maybe part of your rationale, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yes.
That was $1 million. It came back that was not, didn't go to what was originally intended.
Right. It's going to a fantastic project, and I'm glad that we were able to repurpose the nearly $1 million.
But you'd rather not go through that again.
I don't, yeah, I've got the T-shirt. I don't want to do that again if we can help it.
So you're requesting up to 1.6 million. So if we go through the process next year of actually laying out the engineering plans and the cost is less then we're fine to reduce that amount and just follow what that decision.
And if it is over 2.1, then we better do some value engineering.
Just for education purposes for me only, and can everybody hear? I want to make sure, because sometimes I can't hear, tell if the microphone is, I know. How long do you think the engineering will take to, I know, crystal ball, I mean, is it going to take 6 months? Is it going to take 4 months, 2
mean,
months, 3 days?
I think if we spend 30 to 45 days coming up with the general direction and have the engineer helping us through that, I think they could have it engineered in a couple, 3 months.
Is this something you're wanting to start after the first of the year, or you have to wait for the state to approve something timeline wise? I'm just thinking timeline.
I'd like to start before the first of the year, but I need to have conversations with the region on that.
Thank you.
Other questions? And we have 2 on Zoom.
Chad has a question. Can he come up?
We allowed Bobby. I don't want to be partial.
So again, just for education and clarity, Corey, you mentioned water and sewer, but then you said infrastructure in general. So is it the scope just to water and sewer or any infrastructure in the park, including roads or drainage or other such? I just tried to, just for clarity.
Project A in my conversation was broad on infrastructure.
Okay.
Project B is specific to water and sewer.
Okay. That was the question. Thank you.
I have a question too. So on the sewer and water, that's going to be to all the, that's going to be sewer and water lines ran through the whole park wherever needed and ran to the existing facilities that are out there?
Mike, I can't comment on every facility, right? I think if we do every facility, we may have some budget issues. That's where I would lean on a representative from the park and the leadership from the county commissioners to determine the exact alignment. But I view this as an infrastructure project, water and sewer only, to benefit Memorial Park. Will it serve every single existing facility in Memorial Park, I can't answer that.
I would say that putting the infrastructure in, then you don't have to connect everything immediately. You can plan and prepare, and having infrastructure for water and sewer out there provides opportunity for future connections, if you will, to water and sewer from elsewhere inside or around or near the park. So as long as that's considered during engineering phase, I guess that would be a good thing.
And Shannon, you contacted Dan Wright, who gave us the April 15th, 2024. And as I was rereading that, the expense is wider, larger capacity, pipe, whatever lift is required, which today is very expensive, and $10 million to put that line up from here to Geo and the new correctional facility. Things are just expensive. So, and the line under 3 is already there, right, Corey? That was put in earlier this spring, as I recall. So that's a wide enough pipe to take it. So there's $110,000 that was done that puts it on the west side of 3. Other questions, comments?
A question for Bobby and Steve. Excuse me. In your research so far on what you want to consider for the YOC, have water needs been discussed at all? Water improvement needs?
Microphone. Nobody can hear him back there.
YOC, same as Saddle Club, their line runs up beside County Road 100. And so their water needs are met already. So they wouldn't even be included in this unless they so chose. So the smart thing to do with all of this is if you're going to do one, you got to do the other. To make the loop, to keep the water pressure up, to feed the South 90 and the north side is to come up, go straight across and back down to 3. And that feeds it. And then like Shannon just said, because this is a conversation we've already had, that you can tie in to all the other existing facilities that's out there. At any point, you could tee off and run to them. So the smart money would to be spent, in my opinion, would make that loop all the way around through that park at one time, because you've already had 2 studies done, one to feed the south side and one to feed the north side. And both of them made the suggestion that running a straight line in and stopping isn't going to give you the adequate pressure. So at this point, one loop would feed all of it. And that's just smart money spent. It's taxpayer money. So the smart thing to do is make one loop be done.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. Anyone else, including the 2 that are on Zoom? Hearing none. Thumbs? Betsy's a thumbs up. Oh. Thanks for keeping one hand on the steering wheel. You're parked. Okay. Well, I'm not worried about the steering wheel then.
I have another question, which is kind of the same thing, just wrapping my mind around it. If the project comes underneath the requested amount, is there a problem with that? What if we decided to do a project, it ends up costing $1 million? We take the 500 from Ready, we put in 500. I'm not saying we can do what we want to do for that. I'm saying, what are the implications of a project that was requested for more than what was spent on it? Yeah,
From the state's perspective.
right.
I mean, I think as long as, we use the $500,000 for the water and sewer, I don't think they'll mind.
Thank you.
And when did you say you expect a thumbs up or thumbs down from the state? January?
I didn't say because I don't know.
Okay, fair answer. I do not know. Okay, hopefully January.
But this conversation is not premature because we got to have match in place. We got to have, we got to have our financing in place to move forward on these projects, this one and the other one. So I appreciate the county government's leadership thus far in the ready to projects.
That was quite a chore going through a lot of projects in East Central Indiana. And I know you and Jennifer had even more because you took all 8 counties, but we had 13. This is a sidebar, and I tend to chase the rabbit down the hole occasionally. The Lilly is totally separate, the Lilly Arts and Blight, and nothing's mentioned about that. So I know we're not discussing that, but is that a sidebar that's being discussed somewhere at the state level or at the region level?
So our region has a list for blight projects. We didn't have any submitted from Henry County. I think we had 3 Lilly Endowment Arts and Culture projects, and it's running parallel to Ready, but it's a different pot of money. And I think the state, they announced the program. We all got busy on working on projects. And then they announced some money for regions to go through a planning exercise. So we're working through that.
Sorry for the rabbit hole. Any other questions?
I guess I'd like to say we would be foolish to let the $500,000 go back to the region. There might be another project that could move forward if we chose that, but the opportunity to do a couple of $1 million project and get 25% of it paid for comes along very, very rarely. And kudos to Brianna for the well-written application. And I think regardless of what happens with that building on the hill, this is a good viable project for the park. So with that, I'll make the motion to allocate up to $1.6 million to this project.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by Shannon, not Corey, seconded by Mike. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Passes 6-0. Again, thanks the committee. I know you and Jennifer in particular put a tremendous amount of time in this because us just doing our 13 local took a lot of time. So thank you. Thank you, Brianna, because it apparently bubbled to the top because of the quality of the application. So thank you for doing that. That's going to help the park, the area, Henry County. We do need housing in the worst way.
Appreciate today's vote and your leadership and investment, because tomorrow I'm going to send an email to Trevor, who runs the region, and say, when is the state going to approve the projects? Because we got a lion's share of our match approved. So thank you.
Thank goodness for food and beverage. We can keep it. My only reminder is our next official November meeting is on Wednesday, the 13th at 4:30. Anything else? Anyone? Unless something catastrophic comes up, we'll see you on the 13th at 4:30. Thank you, Joel, for coming. Ladies, thank you for taking notes. We appreciate it. Thank you all who came.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you for coming in
guys.
Zoom. Adjourned.